Thank you for joining me once again. This is my update for the 24th of October 2025. I have two topics to discuss with you today. The first topic is Donald Trump claims in regard to the sanctions placed on two Russian oil companies. The second topic is the argument between Donald Trump and the Wall Street Journal in regard to the approval of long-range missiles for Ukraine to fire deep inside Russia. These two topics are very interesting. So let's start with the first topic. This war is now Donald Trump's war, 100%. And Donald Trump should stop saying, this is not my war. This is Joe Biden's war. That nonsense doesn't stick with anybody anymore. This war had become Donald Trump's war. Obviously, we knew it was already Donald Trump's war, but the fact that he placed sanctions on Russian companies yesterday, the 23rd of October, had now make it obvious. The gloves are now totally and completely off. The flip-flop is a declaration of war. A few days ago, we saw Donald Trump pretended like he was in a good relationship with Vladimir Putin when they had that phone call. They promised to have a meeting, but for some reason, that meeting was cancelled. And then Donald Trump flip-flopped once again and placed sanctions on Russia under the pressure of the neocons in the United States administration. Vladimir Putin should also stop saying Donald Trump is the friend to Russian government, because he is clearly not, is he? He is clearly not. Putin also needs to face the reality that this is now a full-on war with the United States, because at the end of the day, no matter how long it takes or get, Zelensky will eventually get his hands on those long-range missiles if he had not already got his hand on them. You know this as much as I do. So the gloves are off. All the sweet talking and sugar coating should stop. Everybody should maintain their line. This war is now Donald Trump's war, 100%. Vladimir Putin should stop trying to sweet talk Donald Trump by calling Donald Trump the friend of Russian government, because Donald Trump is not. Now, here is what Donald Trump had to say yesterday. Trump said the next step is to consider. Now, he said this while he was in a meeting with the European Union leader. Was it Mark Rutte, when they were having the conference in the Oval Office? Donald Trump said the next step is to consider or think about giving Ukraine long-range missiles and a lot of air defense systems. Then he quickly changed his tone, quickly changed his language to, oh no, I mean, NATO can buy these weapons and then do whatever they like with them. They can give it to Ukraine or do whatever they wish to do with them. At the end of his statement, he said, this is not my war. This is Joe Biden's war. Donald Trump, nobody fall for that nonsense anymore, Mr. Trump. We now know what you are all about. This war would never happen. This is what Donald Trump said. He said, this war should never have happened if I was in office. I strongly believe Donald Trump is living in a dream world. And I think he forget that we are not in the 40s or in the 60s. We see what is going on. This war is 100% Donald Trump's war now, because he has now fully aligned himself with the EU and Ukraine. And this war is his war. I suppose it has been from the beginning, but we had to give him some benefit of doubt to see if he actually meant his words when he was campaigning that he was going to end this war. But Donald Trump had let a lot of people down with what is going on right now. The fact that he placed those sanctions on Russian companies yesterday, that was it. That was a declaration of war against Russia. And Dmitry said it. He said that was a declaration of war on Russia. Those sanctions were basically targeting Russian-friendly countries. Let's be honest, countries like China, India, and those other countries who does business with Russia, who are buying Russian oil and gas. That is what that sanction was all about. It wasn't about Russia itself. It was about targeting Russian business partners. I mean, there are a lot of oil companies or a lot of oil producing companies in Russia, not just the Lukoil and the Rosneft. Those two are the major ones. That is why they decided to place sanction on them. India already said they will continue to do business with Russia. They will look for other ways to continue to buy oil and gas from Russia. China was also very quick to condemn Donald Trump for his senseless sanctions against those two Russian companies. The one spoiled kid that was really and truly happy with all of this news when it was announced was Zelensky. Zelensky was over the moon. He was in Brussels somewhere. Like I said, Zelensky is not in the country right now, and he would not be going back to Ukraine for a while because he knows that country is not safe. Trust me. Zelensky said he is so satisfied. He was quickly and happily to float the idea of long-range missiles next. And here is one thing I want you to understand. If you're watching this video, to be honest, the brutal honest truth is that I have noticed that everything Zelensky wanted or he requested for, he always gets. It might take a long time, it might take a while, but they always give him what he requests or what he wanted eventually. So let's wait and see how this one goes with this long-range missile situation. Vladimir Putin laughed off the sanctions yesterday. The sanction on these two Russian oil companies. He said it was very used to the childish behavior of the United States government. They propose, 1 minute they propose, and the next minute they cancel. 1 minute they promise you they are not going to come close to Russia. The next minute they break or go against their own promise. So he is not surprised with the behavior of Donald Trump yesterday. Now, please don't get this wrong, okay? Don't mistaken this. Those sanctions on those companies were not sanctions on Russia or Russia government. They were not sanctioned on Russian president. They were not sanctioned on Russian government official. Not at all. They were sanctions on oil producing companies. But regardless, the Russian government make money from this company. When the company make money, Russia obviously makes money. So it was an indirect attack on Russian government because the Russian government at the moment, Vladimir Putin and his administration at the moment had outlived every single sanction. There's nothing they can do against the Russian government at the moment or now. But all they can do is to try to scare off Russian trading partners or Russian friendly countries. We heard rumor, according to the Wall Street Journal, that United States had also lifted restriction on the use of Western long-range missiles deep into Russian territories. This apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, this was part of the move to put pressure on Vladimir Putin to come to the negotiating table to talk and end this war in Ukraine. Let's just wait patiently and see how the Russians are going to respond to this. Now, before I continue, they keep saying they're trying to force Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table to talk, to end the war. Without being an hypocrite or without being one-sided, let's say the honest truth for once. Vladimir Putin presented 8 peace proposals. You remember, right? But this guy said no to all 8. Vladimir Putin and Russia had continued to call for the end of this war. But these guys are calling for ceasefire instead of calling for the end of the war. And now that Russia had gained the initiative, they've gained upper hand against everybody fighting against them right now. They are now trying to force Vladimir Putin to talk. When he was begging them When he was pleading with them to come sit down, let's talk and end this war, they were calling for ceasefire instead of sitting down to end the war with him. But now the guy is saying, you know what, I'm winning, so I'm not going to talk to you. Now they are doing everything to try to force him to sit down and talk. The same thing they've done for over 4 years that never worked. They are still continuing in that footstep. Okay, good luck to them. Now, after the Wall Street Journal posted that news that United States had lifted restrictions on Ukraine to use long-range missiles deep into Russia, Donald Trump was quick to jump on his website out of fear. Now, I say out of fear. I don't see anything else that I could describe that with. Out of fear, Donald Trump jumped on his website and said the story that was posted by the Wall Street Journal about the United States approving the long-range missiles to be fired deep into Russia was fake. What do you call that? If you don't call that fear, then what should we call that? Donald Trump said the news that was published by the Wall Street Journal was fake, that the United States never approved any missiles to be fired deep into Russia. He said the United States has nothing to do. Whatever those missiles are, wherever they came from, or whatever Ukraine has done with them, United States has no hand in those, whatever it is. So the story from the Wall Street Journal is fake. Here is Donald Trump flip-flopping again, trying to clear his name, trying to remove any blame, or before the consequences start to appear, Donald Trump is trying to remove himself. So, how did the Wall Street Journal get this story then? How did they get those information? Just exactly the same day the Wall Street Journal published the sanctions on 2 Russian companies. How did they get the news that United States had lifted restrictions on Ukraine firing long-range missiles deep into Russia? How did they get the news? It couldn't have been fake, could it? Now, that means Ukraine probably already has those long-range missiles. It seems, now, I'm just trying to think outside the box here. It means Ukraine already has those long-range missiles in their territory. Now, remember, yesterday or the day before, there was a massive attack into the Bryansk region of Russia by NATO forces inside Ukraine, and they used cruise missiles in those attacks. Those could have been Tomahawk missiles, because Tomahawk missiles are cruise missiles, right? Obviously, we had a few that were shot down by the Russian air defense system as Storm Shadow missiles and the Neptune missiles. Something is going on. Something interesting is happening. So maybe not Storm Shadow, maybe not Tomahawk missiles, but United States had provided some form of long-range missiles to Ukraine, because the Wall Street Journal could not have been wrong. But Donald Trump denied it. He said there is nothing as such. That was absolute nonsense story, fake story. The Wall Street Journal said, in response to what Donald Trump said, they said Donald Trump is not fooling anybody. Nobody falls for Donald Trump's story anymore, because every single long-range missile that is fired from Ukraine is authorized by the United States government, and they are operated by NATO forces or United States forces inside Ukraine. Those missiles need United States satellite and navigation systems to get to their target. So there is no way the United States doesn't know about every single missile that is fired inside Ukraine at any given time, because they need to log into the satellite navigation system for those missiles to take off and reach where they are going. So the Wall Street Journal is calling Donald Trump a liar. And thinking about it, how those weapon systems work, I also believe what the Wall Street Journal said. Those weapons cannot move. They are blinded without the coordinate and the satellite navigation system and the direction of the United States, satellite or operative. Every single cruise missile, every single long-range weapon that is fired from inside Ukraine, whether it is going into Russia, whether it is going into Europe, wherever it is going, it needs to be logged by the United States. Every single one needs to be logged because it needs the satellite navigation systems to get to where it is going. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have some really interesting and very dangerous times ahead. Donald Trump continues to flip-flop, trying to clear his name. Every time he comes up with this rhetoric of, this is not my war, it should never have happened, this is Joe Biden's war. But not anymore, because this war is now Donald Trump's war, 100%. But how do you think the Russians are going to respond to this? Or what do you think Russia is going to do in response to this? We know on the ground, things are going perfectly in Russian way. Russia is claiming, Russia is taking, Russia is clearing every single town, every single city, and so on and so forth. Now, just the way I behave when I think outside the box, I'm beginning to think this is a distraction. All of these things happening right now, they are trying to distract us from something. And guess what that is? 3 major cities in the eastern part of Ukraine are fallen or about to fall, and they need to distract us by doing something crazy. This is the pattern of behavior from the beginning of this war. Popcroft is pretty much in the next couple of days will fall to Russian control. The city they've claimed would take nearly a whole year for Russia to take over. It only took 2 months. Kupiansk is almost pretty much done. And a lot more. Poltava, Kherson. I heard yesterday, the 23rd of October, Russia had crossed the Kherson River and they've started offensive inside Kherson city itself. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? That now put Odessa in serious danger, because once Russia is able to go deep into Kherson, they are going to start cutting the supply route. They will be able to establish fire position from Kherson into Odessa. That will put a lot of pressure on Odessa. Odessa is already having, every single day being bombarded. So you can imagine if they go into Kherson and establish good position in Kherson, Odessa is gone. So ladies and gentlemen, this is me thinking outside the box. I believe they are trying to distract us from something, but it is only a matter of time before we find out. Thank you for watching. As usual, let me know what your opinions are in the comment section, and please, I would really like you guys to join and support this channel, okay? Just in the section below by the description section, there's the button that says join. Click on that button and I really appreciate your support and help to continue to grow the channel. Have a great day and God bless.